Welcome to episode 2 of Friends in Film, a podcast where myself, Cooper Hood, and my co-host Josh Straley talk about the latest movie news and theatrical releases. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm glad to be back for our second show.
Yeah, if you tuned into our first episode, you hear us talk about Star Wars Episode 7, and at the end we're not sure when we're going to return, and thankfully for us, and maybe hopefully for you, we're back a little sooner than we expected, because we both got a chance to go see the Hateful Eight this weekend, and instead of pushing it a week, we decided let's talk about it opening weekend instead. So, like I said, on today's episode, we will be discussing our thoughts on the Hateful Eight, the eighth movie made by Quentin Tarantino. We will be giving our top 3 Tarantino films, as well as our top 10 most anticipated movies of 2016. But before we talk about the newest movie we just saw, let's talk about what's happened in the latest film news over the past week or so.
Here we go.
Yeah, the first big one actually dropped the day we recorded our last podcast, which is Christopher Nolan's new project has been revealed. Variety has reported that Christopher Nolan's next movie will be Dunkirk, a story about the evacuation of the northern French city during World War II. Mark Rylance, Kenneth Branagh, and Tom Hardy are in talks to join the movie. Josh, are you excited about this next Nolan film?
I'm totally excited for this next Nolan film. He's probably one of my favorite directors right now. From him doing the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Interstellar, which was his latest and last film that he's done, which was phenomenal, both in story and just him tackling the whole sci-fi realm. I've always been a fan of World War II movies, so I love the pairing here. I'm ready. I'm also anxious to see if he takes this another way outside of the typical war story, but because my gut instinct is to say, oh, Christopher Nolan, maybe he's going to twist this into some kind of multi-dimensional war film that tells us an untold story from Dunkirk. Do you think he would do something like that, Cooper? Or
Yeah, I don't really know because he's basing it off real life events, but he's also putting his own spin on the story. I think the reported cast so far I'm pretty excited about, but the interesting note from Variety is that neither of those 3 are going to be the leads. They're actually going to go to unknown people. So we could see a new star breakout in 2017 with whoever's cast in the lead role. But yeah, I'm interested just to see, because Nolan over the past couple films just developed the twist ending sort of thing. I guess not over the past couple films. It's just kind of been his thing ever since he started directing. So, Interstellar, Inception, Prestige, Memento, like all this stuff is has supposed to have surprising endings. Even Dark Knight Rises, you're not really sure how it ends. So, being a World War II epic, it'll be interesting to see if he can bring that same dynamic to a war movie without really changing what fans expect, which can be a good thing in certain cases, but it could also leave some movie fans questioning, how it really fits in the genre.
right, it could be like, oh, maybe he's departing from his sci-fi thriller genre and maybe carving out a path to make more serious toned films.
Yeah, to make more of an Oscar movie or something because a lot of people think of Christopher Nolan now and they think of one of the best directors currently in the game. But the last couple movies he's done, like summer blockbusters and comic book movies, and now he's going on to World War II, so this could be a totally new thing for him and something that could really start to show what kind of director he's going to be, not only remembered as when he's done making movies, but also how he's going to make movies moving forward. Our next story is Indiana Jones 5 is apparently coming. I don't know how interested you are in the franchise, but in a recent interview with Bloomberg, CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, was talking about the possibilities of the franchise moving forward, and he said, Indiana Jones, by the way, which will be coming. So, Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford have already expressed interest in returning for a fifth Indiana Jones movie. But Josh, do you want another one?
I want another one. I just don't want another one with Shia LaBeouf and aliens and whatever Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was. That is my gut reaction to this. I think if they find some way to make the series feel fresh again, like they did with Star Wars, I think it's a winner. You find a great way to tie Harrison Ford in, but introduce some new blood. I think that could really spark my interest in, because those first three are some of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, that's my childhood. I mean, I ran around with a whip and a hat and played Indiana Jones until I promptly found Star Wars. So if Disney wants to do it, I think they're going to do it right. I don't know if it'll get me excited for years to come about the Indiana Jones franchise. What do you think? There's a lot to read into there.
Yeah, it's a real curious case for me. I've seen all the Indiana Jones movies, but they're not some of my favorite of all time like they are for you or a lot of other people. Probably has to do with I haven't seen them multiple times. I think I've seen each of them like twice, and I don't remember the last time I saw the first three. The last one I saw was 4, so my interest isn't like at an all-time high for a new one, especially, I mean, I love Harrison Ford, but a 65-year-old Indiana Jones is not, I mean, he's not an action star anymore, so if they do bring him back, he'll have to have a sidekick, because Indiana Jones can't do stunts anymore and be running around forests and finding crazy artifacts from history. So I don't know who you'd get in that. I know there's been talk of like recasting, basically telling, like having Harrison Ford tell a story of something that happened in his past, and so that's an easy way to basically reboot the franchise and set it back in time. I don't really know the whole rebooting franchise and stuff in Hollywood is so common nowadays, and I don't want to. There's talk of a young Han Solo movie, and now basically rebooting another famous Harrison Ford character. If they did the whole reboot set back in the 1970s, whatever, I just don't know if that's something that I'm really looking for. I mean, it could be interesting, and if Spielberg's back for it, I'm sure I'll be excited for it, but yeah, it's not something that, I mean, until we know more about the plot and who's coming back and what it's going to be about, it's really hard to judge my excitement levels for it. I don't know if that's the same for you.
No, I agree too. It's way too early to say whether you're for it or against it. We don't have any information other than potential interest from Spielberg and Harrison, and I'm sure a lot of people are clamoring to take that role as well. But when we get more information, I'll make a final verdict on it myself. But I'm open to the idea, absolutely. I mean, not that they would take my opinion, but as a moviegoer, I'm ready for it.
You'd be surprised how the use of social media can sway people. So if you have strong thoughts about the Indiana Jones future of the franchise, or if you want another one, if you don't, what the story should be, who should play a young Indiana Jones, share your thoughts on social media, tweet to the Disney account. I don't know if they'll see it or not, or if they'll even care. But I mean, if there's a big enough push, you never know what can happen.
That's true. It did. Fans did attack the TMT movie with Michael Bay. They didn't like his original ideas of having the aliens come from outer space and just calling it Ninja Turtles. So after some pushback from that, he changed it. So voicing your opinion can definitely influence directors.
Yeah, there's not a lot more we can really say about it at this point, just because we don't know what the movie's about. But a movie we got a little bit more information on is Zootopia, which is a movie coming out this year in March. And Disney released a new trailer for the film. It is about, in the animal city of Zootopia, a fast-talking fox who's trying to make it big goes on the run when he's framed for a crime he didn't commit. Zootopia's top cop, a self-righteous rabbit, is hot on his tail, but when both become targets of conspiracy, they're forced to team up and discover even natural enemies can become best friends. So, Josh, Did you like the new trailer?
I just watched that new trailer this morning, and yeah, I think I saw an opening sequence for it during Star Wars, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious after kind of scoffing at the idea initially. After seeing this next trailer that kind of set up the plot and what's going to be driving the story for Jennifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman, I'm probably going to see this in the theaters. It looks like another great follow by Disney with their Wreck-It Ralph, Big Hero 6, all animated films that I really enjoyed, and I'm on board. I don't think it's a bad idea anymore, and anxious to see how good it's going to be. Anything Disney Pixar usually hits the right notes for me. How about you, Cooper?
Yeah, I mean, Disney doesn't really know how to do it wrong, it feels like, when it comes to animated movies. It's not Pixar, but they still, are very good at picking, topics and putting them in fun environments that you can learn these like really insightful lessons about life, but you don't really understand it at first because you're just focused on how, cute these emotions are, like Inside Out or whatnot. But I mean, yeah, when I first saw the first, I think it was a teaser trailer or the first clip, I thought it was hilarious. And then, like you said, when we saw Star Wars, they showed a clip of it beforehand, and the theater was just laughing hysterically. I had seen it before, but it was still funny to see in that setting. And I mean, it comes out in early March, and there's not really a lot of competition around that time for it. So, I mean, I expect it to do plenty of money and have plenty of success. I'm sure I'll see it at some point. Maybe we'll talk about it on the podcast. But yeah, the new trailer, it was kind of like the real first trailer we saw for it, because the first couple were just kind of, showing you the characters, but this one kind of showed the plot of the movie in certain points. And yeah, I think it looks great. And for kids and maybe for parents who want to take their kids to see it, it sounds like there will be a good lesson in there, which is always good for movies. But yeah, that's pretty much what I thought about the trailer. If you have any closing thoughts on it.
Not really.
No?
But speaking of something that we got more information on, Batman versus Superman, did you see the article that came out on the Reddit thread?
Yes. So some random Reddit user claimed to have seen an early showing of BVS. And even though he signed all these contracts saying he can't talk about the movie, he went on Reddit anyways and gave his opinion, raving about the movie, saying it's great. We haven't seen anything really big from the trailers, but one of the most interesting things that came out of it was supposedly an actor, Dan Boyer, has been cast as Green Lantern. I just don't know if I don't know if that's true. Nothing against Dan Boyer. He's done nothing I have seen him in. But on IMDb, he is listed on the Batman v Superman page as a drone pilot, which fits the description of a Hal Jordan who becomes Green Lantern. But I'm getting a little worried about this movie each week, it seems like.
Did you actually read the Reddit thread?
I read his initial review of the movie, basically just talked about how much he liked it and everything, but I didn't read his following comments.
Yeah.
Because just in case he's right, if there's major spoilers in there, I don't want to know them at this point.
I didn't know what to think of it when I read it, because I got onto Reddit and glossed over it, and it was such a great review. He said he loved absolutely almost every part of it. It makes me think, did you really see this movie? Because he had no qualms with it whatsoever. But I know that they do a lot of test screenings, and I think the following day more came out that more people were seeing it. But yeah, the user violating NDA, he said something that really kind of caught me off guard, was that the things that we've seen in the trailers, I think I expressed that I thought they gave away too much, and I know the entire plot of the movie now. He says that the best parts, the twists, come even later in the movie than that. And I don't know what to make of that. I think you were telling me just this morning that Flash got confirmed in the film, or there was a tease from one of the costume designers that we are going to see him appear in the movie.
Yeah, there's been rumors for a while that we know for sure that Batman and Superman will be the return of Superman, but also introduce Batman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. And then there were rumors that not only would those four people appear, but it would also introduce Cyborg and Flash in a cameo. And now apparently Green Lantern is in it. So that's the entire Justice League is in it. And I understand the movie is called Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. But I mean, come on. Like, what is this? This movie is just going to feel so rushed, I feel like. And there's just going to be so much in it. I don't want to compare it to Fantastic Four because for many reasons, but Fantastic Four is a movie that through the first half, maybe 2/3, there's enjoyable parts of that movie. It's not great, but it's enjoyable. But then the third act, it just falls apart.
Are you admitting right now that you went and saw Fantastic Four in theaters?
Yes, I saw it opening weekend, in fact.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It was just something I had to see, even though it was getting terrible reviews. I had to see it just because you never know. Maybe I could have liked it. And for the first 2/3 of the movie, I thought I liked it, and I was like, why are people hating on this movie? And then the third act happened. And I was like, oh, this is why. So I don't think it'll be a terrible third act for BVS, but if the second act is Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman teaming up and fighting Doomsday, and then they defeat him, and then Lex Luthor is like, hey, that's not it. I've got something even bigger for you guys to fight, or you guys are going to have to fight me. And then they're like, oh, well, let's call Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman and all these people over, and it's just going to be a mini Justice League movie for like 20 minutes. And it will take me out of it because I'll just be kind of annoyed because it's not the movie that you're advertising.
Yeah, I love that Batman versus Superman plot so much. I'm just afraid that they might minimize the significance of that battle. That's my biggest fear. I'm okay with the cameos as long as they do it in a tasteful way, but give me my Batman versus Superman 25-minute fight and I'll be a happy camper. Anything else, it's just going to be icing on the cake as long as it's done well.
Yeah, because I understand that Doomsday or somebody would have to show up at some point to make them friends and make them allies. But if this Reddit user is right, and that's not even the end battle, they're going to be arguing for, 20 minutes? Or maybe 45? They're going to be arguing for the first act, and then they're going to be like, oh, well, we got to team up to stop Doomsday. And then, oh, something else has happened, so we got to team up again and fight this guy, and let's bring in all these other people. And I don't know. I don't want to totally hate on the movie because I could, come March 25th, I believe is when it comes out, come that day, I could end up loving the movie and be super excited for DC's cinematic universe moving forward. But at this point, it's just hard to really get super excited for what's in store.
I follow that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and but one movie we both were very excited for was Star Wars 7.
Ooh, yes.
And we're not going to talk about it a lot because we already did a whole podcast on it, and you can listen to our thoughts. We'll link it in the description, and it should be on your screen at some point. But it broke some more box office records since we last recorded. It is now the 7th highest grossing movie of all time, and it's on pace to be the 6th by the time we're recording this on January 2nd, but when you guys hear this on the 5th, it should be the 6th highest movie of all time. So that's crazy, and it has also surpassed Titanic and Jurassic World as the second highest domestic total of all time. So since it just keeps breaking records and the domestic and overseas split is still basically 50-50, where do you think it's going to end, Josh?
I couldn't even begin to speculate. But from all appearances, it's going to take down Avatar at number one, but I don't know. I just don't know what kind of legs it's going to have in China, because I know that the movie over there, I know that the original trilogy and the prequel trilogies weren't received really well because in the 70s there were a lot of political bans and things like that. So Star Wars hasn't been allowed in China for very long. So I don't know if it's that nostalgia and excitement's going to carry over and push it over the top or not. So that's the one thing we're going to that China is going to be the deciding factor, I think, on whether it gets to number one or stays a really powerful number two.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. It is, like I said, currently seventh all time, which it should be sixth by the time you guys hear this. But it will also probably be, I mean, I'm fully expecting it to be Avatar domestically, because it's 760 million, which is only 80 million away from where it's at currently. And it did another it's projected to do 95 million this weekend, so it's crazy that in the third week you could get almost 100 million again. But I think if it's going to end up taking over Avatar, it will need $1 billion domestic, plus the wave will have to continue going, and then hopefully China eats it up. Just like, I don't even know what, but just hopefully they just see it a bunch of times, and if that's the case, it could do it. But 3 billion will be tough. Because there's some people thought it could get to 3 billion worldwide, which would break Avatar's record by 212 million. I think it has a shot to beat Avatar, but it'll be very, very close.
I think 3 billion's reaching, but if it does take Avatar down, it'll be by a few million or a few tens of millions. I don't think it could be by that much.
Yeah, I completely agree. And with that is the end of the news that we've covered. And we're going to move on to the movie of the week, which is The Hateful Eight. So this week, actually just last night, me and Josh both saw The Hateful Eight in the front row with recliners. So it wasn't the optimal viewing experience, but the latest film directed by Quentin Tarantino stars Samuel L. Jackson, Kurt Russell, Jennifer Lee, and Walter Goggins. And the synopsis is, in the dead of a Wyoming winter, a bounty hunter and his prisoner find shelter in a cabin currently inhabited by a collection of nefarious characters.
Ooh. So
yeah, it's a very interesting plot, and it's best to go into this movie not knowing a lot about it. We're not going to really hold back. There's not like a ton of spoilers really in the movie that I can think of, but the ending, I mean, is very spoilery for the beginning. So we're going to talk about full spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, we're going to do general thoughts real quick, and then once that's over, there will be spoilers for how it ends and characters and everything. So, Josh, some general non-spoiler thoughts?
General non-spoiler thoughts. Oh boy. Okay, well, this was my first Quentin Tarantino movie I've ever seen. So that was an experience in and of itself. And my general thought overall was just, I really enjoyed it. The characters were great. The story and the way that he segments everything into chapters I thought was really unique. I've never seen that in a film before. And every chapter had a part where I was just like, oh wow, that's a really great point. Like I wonder how that's going to come back and play later, or whatever the case may have been. And at the end of the film, everything just fit together so well. I was like, oh, that's fantastic. It felt a little bit slow, but then as soon as it got near the end, it crescendoed so well. Everything just comes flying at you, both in story and in the amount of gore. I was not expecting that much, but from a Quentin Tarantino, but after viewing Kill Bill and Inglourious Bastards just last night after I left the theater, I now understand that is a staple of Quentin's movies. How about you, Cooper? What'd you think of it?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely typical Tarantino. I'm not like a crazy Tarantino fan, but I've seen all of his movies except for Jackie Brown. Um, but The Hateful Eight is one of the best ones I've seen from him. Um, Other thoughts, I mean, the characters are great. Samuel L. Jackson was phenomenal
Oh, he was one of my favorites.
in the role. Kurt Russell was great. Jennifer Lay um, was, as the prisoner, was super funny, and she just had those like really like awkward comedic moments that were like really great in a story that's basically just a lot of people talking. So if you want an action movie, don't see this, because the first until the very end, there's not much that happens. It's a lot of dialogue, but it's what Tarantino does best is he just keeps it interesting. Like the movie was almost 3 hours long, and I didn't find myself like checking, being like, oh man, how much longer is this movie? It was like at one point I checked and I was like, wow, it's already been an hour 40. Like I only have an hour left. Like that's crazy. So I mean the dialogue's great and the characters are just, especially the leads. There's supporting characters like Tim Roth's character I love, and I wish he had a bigger role because he was just super funny and charming and everything. But that's pretty much all I can really say. I mean, the gore is definitely there, just like any Tarantino movie. So I was expecting it and waiting for it, unlike you, and it didn't bother me at all. But there were some problems with it, but we will talk about those now. Well, actually, in a little bit, we're going to do some of our favorite things about the movie, including spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, skip ahead a little bit until we talk about our favorite Tarantino films and then most anticipated for 2016 lists. But Josh, did you have a favorite moment or something that stood out for you that you really, really loved?
I think it was the third or fourth chapter that was where everything starts to come out about what was going on, and basically turns into a classic like murder mystery whodunit. And Samuel L. Jackson's character starts walking back and forth through the cabin, and he's questioning everybody, recounting earlier in the day and his experiences at the cabin, where these four characters that are under question have been for most of the day. And I guess that entire sequence where he pieces together everything and then proceeds to blow just about everyone's heads off before Channing Tatum takes a shot from beneath the floor at his balls. that was definitely one of my favorite parts of that film. I love me some Samuel L. Jackson, so anytime he starts taking care of business, that's definitely my favorite. How about you, dude?
Yeah, the shootouts and everything in Tarantino movies, even though they're kind of over the top and gory, I always find them super enjoyable. And I don't know what that says about me as a person, but it's just, I mean,
it's not real.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous and over the top, and you just kind of get lost in the world that it's in. I thought a lot of the characters were super strong. But yeah, once it turns into the murder mystery type thing, then it's like, okay, like I really want to figure it out. And like you start thinking, I know you leaned over and you were like, I really don't like Mexican Bob.
Yeah, I tell you, dude, he was shady throughout that whole film.
I would agree. But it's just there's so much character stuff, and once it turns into the mystery, I wish that would have been the majority of the movie. Like Samuel L. Jackson, like maybe cut out some of some of chapter 3, and then kind of the origin story, the bad guys, and then you just give Samuel L. Jackson and Walter Goggins as the sheriff, just kind of give them more time to try to figure out who did it, because I thought that was like super interesting and funny, and I was trying to figure out who had done it, and I was like, oh, I think it is Mexican Bob, but then he was like, oh no, I was playing the piano. I was like, oh crap, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he couldn't have poisoned the coffee, so then who did it? And I was like, I don't think it was Tim Roth's character, so it's got to be Michael Madsen's Joe Gage. And like, I don't like him from the get-go because there's something about him didn't sit right with me. So, but yeah, I mean, once it just turns into a bloodbath, and I mean, it's just great.
The one thing I didn't expect though was all four of them to be in cahoots.
Yeah,
that was the biggest surprise to me. Yeah, Channing Tatum's character waiting below the floorboards. I knew he was in the film, and I'd forgotten it up until that point until he blasts Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, I was a similar thing with Channing Tatum. I remembered he was in it before, but I was like looking, I kind of waiting for him to pop up. And then even his first appearance, I didn't know it was him. So it was a very interesting thing. I kind of wish he was in it more because I like Channing Tatum as a comedic actor, and see him as more of a serious Quentin Tarantino style movie as a lead or a secondary character would have been pretty cool to see from him. But any problems? Anything you didn't like about the movie?
Like I think I said before, the gore wasn't for me. Because at least 3 or 4 times I actually kind of did the oh no and shielded my eyes type of a thing because I am a wuss. I'll say that out loud right now. But outside of that, and there's another scene where Samuel L. Jackson is very vividly depicting his I don't know what the proper word would be. Forced conscription. Oh.
It's a very awkward thing to talk about.
Yeah,
basically, Samuel L. Jackson tells a story about how there's another dude in the cabin called General Sandy Smithers, played by Bruce Dern, that apparently Samuel L. Jackson killed his son, but before doing so, made him walk around in the freezing cold, butt naked, and they show it. So it's a very awkward thing to watch, and you shield your one eye so you can't see the sun, but you can still see Samuel L. Jackson, but then it just gets even more ridiculous, and there's sexual acts that happen, and it's very uncomfortable, and that was my least favorite part by far, because I just didn't feel like it needed to happen, and it was just disturbing.
Yeah, it's not explicit. It's just it's very heavily implied and talked about by Jackson's character. So outside of those two things, I really enjoyed it, and it's actually probably I've seen 3 Tarantino films now, and that is definitely my favorite.
That's your favorite film?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's hear let's hear your top 3 then.
All right. Well, okay. So leading off with the Hateful Eight, I just finished Inglourious Bastards today with Brad Pitt, B.J. Novak, and a couple other characters that
got Daniel Brühl in there.
Yes. Briefly, Michael Fassbender makes a appearance before getting blasted, and then number 3 would be Kill Bill. I like that one too. I thought
1 or 2.
The first one, the volume 1. One of my favorite songs from Fall Out Boy is Uma Thurman.
Yes.
And after watching that, when I think of the phrase "dance like Uma Thurman," it takes on a completely new meaning when you watch her chop people to bits with her samurai sword.
Well, that's where you need to watch Pulp Fiction, because that's where the reference is from. Because there's a scene where she dances in a club, and it's her and John Travolta. I'm pretty sure.
Oh man!
And
I am so out of touch now.
Because I had heard the Fall Out Boy song before I'd seen Pulp Fiction, and then I saw Pulp Fiction, and I was like, oh, Uma Thurman dancing, got it.
I get that
I
reference.
understand a pop reference now. It's like I'm caught up with 80s culture.
I feel like Captain America and Avengers.
Yeah, I understood that reference.
How about you? Your top 3?
For me, it is Kill Bill, Volume 1.
Mm-hmm.
Uma Thurman's great. The final karate fight where she takes on 100 dudes is just insane. And even though it's totally unrealistic, it is hilarious and it's action packed. Definitely his most action heavy movie, I would say. Number 2 would be Django Unchained. Jamie Foxx is just great in the lead role as Django. Then Leonardo DiCaprio's hilarious.
That's right.
Samuel L. Jackson's in it for a little bit, which supposedly Django and Hateful Eight are in the same universe somehow.
I did see that, yeah.
I don't know how that works, since he is a butler in Django Unchained, but then a bounty hunter in Hateful Eight. So I don't know how that works, but Hateful Eight is my third favorite from him currently. I want to go back and rewatch Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. I've seen Inglourious Bastards, but it wasn't really for me. I don't know. It was one of those days where I watched it, I just didn't love it, but I thought it was funny and it was interesting, but there's too much. I don't know. There's something about it I just didn't love.
Oh, I thought Brad Pitt was just absolutely hilarious.
He is great.
He plays it. He just plays an American, like a know nothing. I just want to kill a Nazi American, and he does that character so well throughout that film. It kept me laughing almost every time he was on screen.
Yeah, and it's funny because when we were talking beforehand about, what our favorite Tarantino movies are and everything, and we were trying to figure out, because it's before every Tarantino movie, it's the 8th out of, like, Hateful Eight is the 8th out of 10 for Tarantino, because he's only making 10 movies, directing and writing, and then he's done doing that, supposedly. That's what he says. And I was trying to figure out, because there were 9 listed, how it all works, and I was like, what? But apparently Kill Bill 1 and 2 count as one movie, apparently. But I've seen all of them except for Jackie Brown. And I only found that out today because when I was looking at his IMDb, Death Proof, I ended up watching it in school one time. Super random. But, those are our top 3 Tarantino movies. Anything else?
No, I'm good. I'm ready for our next segment. How about you?
Yeah. So our final segment before we say goodbye on our second episode is, since this is 2016 just began, Happy New Year, everybody. But we're going to do our top 10 most anticipated films of 2016. So I'm going to start off and do 10 through 6, and then Josh is going to do his, and then we're going to do 4 through 2 each, and then we'll end with our number ones.
Sounds great.
All right.
Kick it off.
My number 10 movie that I most anticipated in the year. Before I do, I'm just going to give some honorable mentions real quick to movies that almost made the list. Demolition with Jake Gyllenhaal, X-Men Apocalypse, The Accountant with Anna Kendrick, Ben Affleck, Eddie the Eagle. Those are probably the ones that would probably have made my list next if one of them, for some reason, I saw something I actually hated it.
Yeah, sure.
But number 10 is 999. For those of you who do not know, 999 is a movie directed by John Hillcoat, who has also done Lawless, which is a movie I am a fan of. It stars a ton of people. It stars Anthony Mackie and Norman Reedus and who else? I'm missing a ton of people. Like Aaron Paul, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Woody Harrelson, Casey Affleck, Gal Gadot, Kate Winslet, Teresa Palmer. Like, it's an incredible cast, and it's basically about these corrupt cops that help criminals pull off this insane heist. It is rated R, so it's not for everybody, and the trailers just look super interesting, and there's going to be a lot of conflict. I can't wait for it. Number 9 is Suicide Squad.
Ooh.
So David Ayer, director of Fury, which another movie I love, stars Margot Robbie, Will Smith, Scott Eastwood, Caroline Delevene, don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, a ton of other people, and that one for me, it's super villains and their quest to basically redeem themselves and work for the government in a real shady story. I'm sure Jared Leto's also in it as the Joker, and I guess Batman's in it. So
looks like they make cameos.
Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting. First supervillain entire movie, and the second movie of this year by DC in their universe. And then on the flip side of not really Marvel, but it's a Marvel property made by Fox, is Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
Rated R comedy superhero movie. It looks hilarious and action packed, and man, I was not really like crazy about this movie when it was first announced, but just everything they're doing with viral marketing and the trailers, I just can't. I keep getting more and more excited for this movie. I mean, Ryan Reynolds is gonna kill it as Deadpool. I have no doubt in my mind. Let's see, 7. Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Oh, why so low?
I don't know, honestly, because I'm really excited for it, but it's just there's other things that I'm more excited for other reasons, I guess. Directed by Gareth Edwards, who did Godzilla, starring Felicity Jones, Mads Mikkelsen, Ben Mendelsohn. It just has a great cast, and it's set a couple years before A New Hope, and it's Rogue One stealing the Death Star plans. So another Star Wars movie will be great, and seeing how they do basically the first anthology movie of they have like 3 planned right now. Be very interesting to see how they do those. And then 6, before I let you start your list, is Bourne 5, I guess you can call it. It's the next Bourne movie. You could call it Bourne 4, depending on what you think about Jeremy Renner's addition to the Bourne franchise. But Matt Damon is back, Paul Greengrass is back, Julia Stiles is back. Plus they're adding Alicia Vikander, who I absolutely love. She is fantastic. She's an Ex Machina, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Danish Girl, which I've not seen yet, but probably won't, honestly. But that one, it's hard. Probably, if I knew something about really the plot, like if I knew what the focus of the movie is about, really, or maybe I've seen something besides just like a still of him training, it could be higher. But I mean, I love the Bourne movies so much. But yeah, let's get to your 10 through 6.
Yeah. Well, we've got quite a different list here. I didn't realize how different it was going to be. But my number 10 is Finding Dory. I loved Finding Nemo. I still love it to this day, and I'm just really curious to see about where it goes from here. Ellen's back as Dory, Albert Brooks as Marlin, and on the cast list I noticed was Idris Elba. So I'm really curious to see what he's going to be and bring to the movie. So that's 10. Number 9 I have is the new Ghostbusters. Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones, and from what I understand, Bill Murray might be making a cameo. I
think most of them are returning.
Oh, that's going to be
some
great.
Sort of cameo capacity, but not as the same roles.
Yeah, well, I think that just makes it more fun. And at least to me, anyway. I love Ghostbusters. That was one of my childhood movies, and I just want to see what they do with this next one. And I love Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon. Leslie Jones, not to my knowledge, I've seen her act before, but she looks totally boss. And
she's just SNL, right? Or am I thinking of Kate McKinnon?
I think you're thinking of Kate McKinnon, but perhaps Leslie Jones is there too? Oh, my Saturday Night Live.
That's where
I
know Leslie Jones from.
Okay. Well, that'll make it even great then, because I love me some Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, right. She's in a lot of Saturday Night Live.
Number 7 I've got is Suicide Squad. Same as you. I'm really excited to see what that batch of villains is going to cook up. The first trailer that they've got going on, you don't really get too much. It seems really dramatic, but I just imagine there's going to be a good amount of comedy in there too. I mean, when you put that many bad guys together, I mean something's gonna happen. And Jared Leto as well. I want to see that Joker. Heath Ledger was always going to be the Joker to me, but I love that new face that they put on it, the character. So I think Jared Leto is probably going to crush it. So that's 7. So then 6.
What was 8? Did I miss that?
Did I miscount? I do not know how to count, ladies and gentlemen. 8 is actually Suicide Squad.
Okay.
Now we're going to move to 7. Here we go. Which is going to be Captain America 3: The Civil War. I've always loved those Marvel films. I think James Gunn just came out recently and said that he absolutely enjoyed Tom Holland's performance in the movie as Spider-Man, and I love me some Spider-Man, so I am super ready for Civil War, no pun intended. All right, and then number 6, Batman vs. Superman. I've got so many expectations for this. I think I expressed those earlier that I'm just ready to see this movie now.
Yeah.
I don't want to know anymore. I don't care about any of the other rumors. I'm just ready for March, February to sit down and see what DC is going to do with their universe.
Yeah, so your 6 is actually my 5. Is Batman v Superman.
Yeah, we're pretty close there.
So, I mean, we've talked about that on both podcasts so far about our different thoughts on the movie. I am cautiously going into it because I don't know what to expect, but I hope it's good just because the more superhero movies, the better in my mind. But it was as high as 2 at one point, but just finding other things out about it, it's dropped. 4, Doctor Strange.
Ooh.
Which is a Marvel movie. It comes out in November of this year. It's crazy to say that. But it stars Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, the Supreme Sorcerer. It has Scott Derrickson directing it, who's done a bunch of horror movies, and like Rachel McAdams, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Tilda Swinton, Mads Mikkelsen. They're all in it. I mean, the cast is great. Having a really trippy magic movie in the MCU is going to be crazy to watch. And they've released, we talked about the stills in our first episode, and like the one where he's like all mystical and it just looks crazy. Like I hope that's what it looks like for like a good, not a good portion of the movie, but throughout different parts of it, because I think that just looks super interesting visually, plus all the character stuff. 3 is Passengers, which is Chris Pratt, Jennifer Lawrence, which basically would sell me on any movie right there. And then it's directed by Morton Tildum. Tildum?
That's not a name I've heard before.
Morton Tildum. He directed Imitation Game, which stars Benedict Cumberbatch, and it's about trying to figure out German codes in the war.
World War II, right?
Sure, yeah. So I really enjoyed that movie, and seeing his take on a space romantic comedy. I don't know how to explain it. Basically, I can't remember which one of them it is, but either Jennifer Lawrence or Chris Pratt, or it's Chris Pratt's character. They're on a spaceship traveling to another colony, and he's woken up from his sleeping chamber 60 years early, and then he starts waking up other passengers, like Jennifer Lawrence and Lawrence Fishburne and other characters, and I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't really know much about the movie besides that, but...
Oh, I didn't even know they had a plot synopsis out for that yet. That just makes me more excited for that.
Yeah, but Chris Pratt, Jennifer Lawrence together in a weird space comedy romance, I'm sold.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 is The Jungle Book.
Oh, yes.
Jon Favreau coming back to Disney and doing an entirely CGI Jungle Book adaptation, and it doesn't even look CGI. No. Like, these are some of the best visual effects I have seen in a trailer in my life, probably. Like, they're groundbreaking. And, I mean, the voice cast he has for it is insane. Some of the names: Scarlett Johansson, Idris Elba, Bill Murray, Christopher Walken, Ben Kingsley, Lupita Nyong'o. I mean, that's just insane. And seeing the Jungle Book story play out in live action adaptation, I will be there opening day for sure.
I was shocked when someone told me that was all CGI, because when I look at that, I think, oh man, they had to have done some of the shots in location, but no, that is insane to think about.
Stage.
It looks fantastic. All right, well, I guess I'm at my number 5, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think you already mentioned this before, Deadpool with Ryan Reynolds. Never before has a trailer for a movie been so much fun for me to watch. Sometimes I'll just pull it up on YouTube, watch it, and then just think, oh man, that's enough right there. I just can't wait to see what the whole movie is going to be like. I know there were some initial reservations about if a movie studio did tackle Deadpool's character, how they'd have to do it. And this movie's been talked about for I would almost say like 4 or 5 years.
Something around there.
You know that Fox has probably got the script right, because I know Ryan Reynolds really, really loves his character. And I think that's translated so well just into those trailers, and I think it'll play out well in the movie. Number 4 is Civil War.
You had Civil War 7.
I've got Civil War on here twice. That's embarrassing. Well, I only have a top 9 list, everybody, because...
That's okay. Is it, you want to put it as your 4th or your 7th movie?
Let's keep it at the 7th, because...
Okay. So then what is your 3rd movie, I guess?
All right, let's move to the 3rd, and is Rogue One. Okay. And we've only heard a plot, and we've only seen one still from the set, but I think Felicity Jones, who was in The Theory of Everything, is going to play a great character. So Star Wars is my favorite movie series of all time, and I'm ready for the next one. But number 2 is Snowden with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Shailene Woodley, and Nicolas Cage. I absolutely love the Snowden story. The debate back and forth of is he a hero, is he a traitor goes on. But I'm really anxious to see how this plays out in a biopic and what route that they decide to take his character. If they leave it up for the audience, if they make a statement, who knows? Well, how about number 1?
All right. Before I do my number 1, do you want to throw in a 10th one that you can think of real quick, just to round out your list? Anything jumps out at you? If not, it's fine. I just want to give you the opportunity to.
Okay, I'll toss in another one here. Let's move this to number 10, but it'll be Zootopia.
Zootopia?
We've been talking about that a lot, and I think that I think I'll like that movie just as much as I do Finding Dory.
Yeah, and just to be clear, our top 10 lists we're not saying that these are going to be our top 10 favorite movies of the year. Like, these are going to be the best movies we see this year. These are just the ones we were looking forward to the most, which brings me to my number 1 movie, which is Captain America Civil War. Mm-hmm. I am a giant MCU fan, and after watching Winter Soldier 2 years ago, Anthony and Joe Russo just killed it with the movie. Captain America has been my favorite Marvel character as long as I can remember. I just cannot wait to see the conflict that happens in the trailer. Just it's so great. It's dark, it's gritty, and the line where Cap says, "You know, I wouldn't do this if I had a choice, but he's my friend," and then Tony replies, "So was I." Like, that just that breaks me every time. And if that's the kind of like emotional journey we're gonna go on this entire movie, I don't know how I'm gonna handle it. Plus, you introduce Spider-Man and Black Panther. I mean, there's just a perfect package for what will probably go down as my favorite movie of the year, I'm guessing, next year or this year, and probably one of my favorite movies of all time, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I'm most excited for, though, is just to see them actually focus on characters again. That was one of the reasons that maybe Age of Ultron wasn't as good as everyone was hoping it was going to be, because there was so much happening. But like you said, yeah, there's definitely a lot of emotion that's got to take place in that film.
So what about your number 1?
My number 1, which you said that you would have it higher if you knew more, but I love the Bourne movies so much. I am so excited for Matt Damon returning in Bourne 5, the 5th Bourne movie. Yeah, it's number 1 for me. those action movies just stand out to me as some of the greatest of all time. So to know that Matt Damon is reprising his role finally, after not the disappointment that Bourne Legacy was, but Jeremy Renner isn't Matt Damon, and they tried to make you care about Jeremy Renner's character, but it just didn't work so well for me. But to see Matt Damon come back with Julia Stiles, Tommy Lee Jones, and Vincent Cassel as well, the Night Fox from the Ocean's movies, is on board with this project too, possibly as a villain. I want to see how they portray this movie and everything that's happened in the last 8 to 10 years since Jason Bourne was on screen. So yeah, that's my number one. That's my most anticipated, because there's so much that they can do with his character in today's events.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, it's totally understandable why that's number one for you. But those are our top 10 lists, and the end of the podcast, actually, ladies and gentlemen. We aren't positive when you'll be hearing us next. This podcast comes out on the 5th of January. Our current plan is to do one about The Revenant, which releases on the 8th here. So if we have free and open schedules, we might do one and put it out on the 12th. If not, you'll hear from us by the 19th for sure, with a review of The Revenant, plus a look at Oscar nominations, which should be pretty interesting to see what they give nominations for Best Picture and Director and Actor and Supporting Actor and everything. So we'll give our thoughts on those, plus whatever else news in the world of movies comes out in that time span. But for more updates on the podcasts, movie news, and other fun facts and whatever we feel like tweeting, you can follow our podcast account on Twitter at Friends and Film. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Coops_Hoops.
And you can pick me up at Straley Strong on Twitter as well.
And you're listening to this on either YouTube or SoundCloud, whichever one you're on. Be sure to follow us, subscribe to us, like it, share it. Go subscribe to the other channel you're not listening to it on. Just help us build some sort of social media following. We might start putting up polls on our Twitter account, so if we do and you're following us, be sure to interact with those. Josh, any final thoughts for the viewers?
No, not really. Just wanted to say thank you guys for listening in our second episode, and hope you come back.
Yeah, similar thoughts from me. Just thanks for tuning in once again. Thank you for hopefully returning from listening to our first podcast. It means we obviously must be somewhat interesting if you're coming back and listening to us again. But until next time, just enjoy your world and go see some movies, why don't you? See you later, guys.